we actually welcome a very special guest to join us here today. Terri Erwin from the Virginia Consensus for Higher Education in Prison joins us now. And two things, Terri, to start us off here. Number one, I apologize. We are quite a bit late getting to you here this morning. I'm sincerely sorry. It's been a very busy morning here at 13 News Now in Hampton Roads. But I also would like to introduce myself. I'm Connor. We've only communicated digitally, so it's nice to sort of meet you in person-ish here live on television.
That's right. Same here. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you because we had some real breaking news here, and with a session of the Virginia General Assembly, you have so many pieces of legislation that are being put into practice and so many pieces of legislation that are being vetoed that draw so many headlines. And so sometimes they can fall through the cracks a little bit. And that may include House Bill 1041, the Virginia Prison Education Task Force. This is a piece of legislation that did get signed through by Governor Abigail Spanberger. So I wonder if we could start with just sort of a summary of what this bill is.
Sure. So House Bill 1041 is a comprehensive look at prison education. Education is one of the proven interrupters of recidivism. And so Delegate Betsy Carr, who is the patron of that bill, developed in such a way that it would look at the educational pathway offered to folks who were incarcerated in the Virginia state prison system, starting with basic literacy all the way through GED completion, adult basic education, and then post-secondary education opportunities that are newly available with the federal restoration of Pell Grant availability for Americans who are incarcerated.
Have you guys done research around why there is such a strong link between education and recidivism?
So we ourselves are not a research firm, but there is a tremendous amount of documentation of the decrease on recidivism that is produced in when there's access. In particular, we look at access to college programs. The Second Chance Pell Program was started in 2015. That was a nationwide experiment to re-implement access to college programs in prisons across the country. And so we have data starting at least back then of the impact of education on public safety and recidivism. It also influences a number of other factors, not just related to whether people are reincarcerated, but it speaks more to the quality of their life experience when they get out. They're more employable. They have better opportunities to make greater incomes, which of course is a stabilizing factor. They are able to role model for their kids, whose educational attainment in part is determined by the educational attainment of parents. So there's a lot of angles on this question about why we invest in education, and all of them point upwards in a good direction.
Yeah, and you love to see those arrows pointing upwards. And when it comes to education within the prison system, it's not always just desire, right? It's availability. We have some data here that you guys sent us in advance of the interview. Roughly 13,000 people return to Virginia communities from prison each year. Only 1,500 of 13,000 were enrolled in college programs in 2025. 25% of the state's incarcerated population is currently stuck on a wait list for educational services. So this task force, the Virginia Prison Education Task Force that was a part of this legislation, involves the VDOC, community colleges, and resilience education to try and fix that pipeline, align prison education with actual labor market needs. When it comes to that alignment, how does that get enacted? Aligning that education with labor market needs. How do you create that sort of symbiotic environment?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to note that this idea of alignment of higher education with workforce needs is something that's happening throughout higher education. You may be aware of, and many of your viewers may be aware of, Virginia's campaign to become the top state for talent. And it talks quite a bit about this alignment of workforce needs, employer needs, with what is being provided in terms of like the graduates that are being produced in Virginia higher educational institutions. How many chemistry majors are we producing? How many business majors? How many food scientists are we producing? And so this question of alignment is a conversation that's happening not just around incarcerated Virginians and their access to education, but also more broadly in Virginia and across the nation. The workforce shortages that have been created by kind of demographic shifts in birth rates are causing a lot of intersectional conversations between economic development folks and workforce development people, higher education institutions. And for our purposes, we really want to see this conversation include incarcerated Virginians because they are returning to the Virginia workforce. 95% of people who are in Virginia state prisons now will be released. They will come home and enter not just communities, but the labor market in Virginia. And so we are suggesting that, like college students all across Virginia, whose graduations we're all celebrating now, where the employers are very excited to see them enter the workforce, we really want to see these incarcerated Virginians who now can go to college, have that opportunity, if they have access, to see their participation in the labor market understood in the same way. What can we do to add value to what they bring to the labor market when they get out? It helps them, their families, but also the state.
And so making it sounds like a win-win-win. And so making these changes that will continue to grow the education system in prison across Virginia and prisons across Virginia is one step. You mentioned the labor market quite a bit. I'm wondering, are there changes needed in the labor market as well? Or is that an area that is ready to absorb what is hopefully a growing number of formerly incarcerated people who are ready to join and work here in Virginia?
Sure. That's an important question. You may have heard April was Second Chance Month, right? Second Chance Employment. It gets 1 month of the year when the conversation is centered around this idea of folks post incarceration with a criminal history entering and finding employment. It has traditionally been a very tough road, honestly, and what we're seeing, though, is a shift in the labor market availability of workers. And this is nationally, this is actually internationally. And so what we're hoping is that there may be a growing openness among employers and among industries to find places for people who are returning to communities, who are eager to find a new place and stability back in their communities and jobs and with their families, to become employees, to bring advanced skills and education to the employers, just like all those college campus graduates that are happening right now as well. One other piece to this relates to barriers to employment. In some industries, there are licensing barriers that may be at the state level or at the professional association level that prevent people with criminal backgrounds from working in certain kinds of industries or roles. And so those are another piece of the conversation. We want to make sure that people get educated in fields to which they can then apply themselves and make a contribution.
And then what role do community colleges play in this? So we have a lot of very, very successful community colleges here in the Hampton Roads area. What role will community colleges play in this initiative?
Sure. So I can tell you about historically the role that they have played. So the Second Chance Pal experiment, which started in 2015, involved 4 Virginia community colleges. They established prison programs, and some of them already had prison education programs, college degree programs. And so given the system, the Virginia Community College system's geographic expanse across the state, and similarly, the Department of Corrections geographic distribution across the state, that kind of a partnership looks a little bit like low-hanging fruit. Getting college programs in all of the prisons across the state, which is an important goal, can really be addressed in a first pass with getting those associate's degree programs established, and then inviting the four-year institutions to join as partners in a 2+2 configuration for bachelor's completion to really top off those professional knowledges and skills that will make incarcerated folks returning to the community very valuable to employers.
Okay, very good. We really appreciate this insight. This seems like something that really could have a positive impact in so many different ways. I'm wondering, Terri, this is such a massively influential thing that you're working on and that your team and your organization is working on, but it also is something that's very specific and somewhat unique. I'm wondering, do you mind me asking how you got involved in this line of work?
Sure. So Pell Grant eligibility was only restored for incarcerated Americans in 2023. And prior to that, during the Second Chance Pell experiment, we were watching the national field, knowing that this was going to soon be arriving in Virginia as well. And we were seeing what we perceived to be perhaps not the best characters participating in this. We were really interested in making sure that Virginia public institutions of higher education were the first rung of approach in partnering with the Department of Corrections to offer these programs. We had some concerns about possible out-of-state for-profit entities scooting in front of our state public institutions, and that was not a direction that we wanted to go. We really wanted to see public dollars that are invested in higher education institutions, public dollars that are invested in corrections, married up in a way that benefited both of those efforts. And of course, the workforce component is another place where we invest public dollars. So this multi-component partnership is something that we thought Virginia could grow, like home grow, with the best interests of the state in mind and Virginians.
It's just wonderful, Terri. That you see something that you think could be improved and you get to work improving it. I think it's fantastic. And like you said, Virginians, the state as a whole, and of course, everyone who's involved with actually getting an education through this program, it seems like something that could really help so many people. I don't know if this is question might be difficult to answer, but if we were to fast forward 10 years from now and everything is sort of fully working the way that everyone hopes that it does, is there a picture you have in your mind of what this will look like?
Absolutely. So we would like to see college programs established in every major Virginia Department of Corrections facility so that all the Virginians who are incarcerated in the state system will have the opportunity to enroll in a degree program. And we'd like to see that really have a foundation with the community college system, the 2 years, like many families in Virginia do who are modest means. You start with that great community college associate's degree, and then maybe you transfer it to a bachelor's completion program. So we'd love to see what we call the 2+2 model established and available in all the prisons across the state. But more than that, really, we'd like to see industry partners who come in at the front end of the development of these academic pathways that partner with the 2-year and the 4-year institutions to identify what kinds of skills do they need, what kinds of knowledge bases do they really want to make sure that people obtain during their education while they're in prison, so that when they come out, there is a very direct and clear pathway to employment in those industries. We want to customize and tailor the educational opportunities to improve outcomes in a number of dimensions, not just getting the degree. The degree on the wall is not what makes your life better. It's what the degree on the wall enables in terms of next opportunities for Virginians. That's what all those May college graduates are thinking about right now. What next? We really want to see that same opportunity, the same vision available to Virginians who are making a much harder entry into the labor market from incarceration.
Well, I think that's a wonderful way to end it here, Terri. We really appreciate you joining us today. Is there anything else that you want to add before we let you go?
I think that what's important about the State Prison Education Task Force is really the multi-sector participation in that task force. We see there the Department of Corrections. We see there the Department of Education. We see Virginia Works, which is a state workforce agency. We see organizations of faith-based entities. That's us. Resilience Education, which came out of the UVA Darden Business School. They're looking at reentry support. The complexity of the folks around the table, the multifaceted perspectives on how we can really build something of value. That's what excites me the most, that collaboration.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Terri, for joining us today. This has been great. We look forward to seeing how this grows. Hopefully we can see you again down the line as it continues to get better and more, distinct in its impacts here in Virginia. Now that, again, Terri Erwin, the director of the Virginia Consensus for Higher Education in Prison. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Terri. We really do appreciate it.